Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. Because of the number of emphatic responses I've received for information on the female psychopath, we're going to continue a little bit more in depth to understand this personality and how they manipulate and how they harm others. And whether you're involved in a relationship with a female psychopath or not, or whether it's been a family member or whether it's been a romantic partner, a spouse, it's very important to learn about this type of individual so that you can become better informed about this type of manipulator and to protect yourself so that you're able to identify perhaps the stages that occur with this type of individual, because chances are at some time in your life you're going to encounter a female psychopath. Now, they're not as prevalent as the male psychopath, yet they do very much exist. And there are two subtypes of the female psychopath. One is kind of termed as the cold, the callous, the controlling, and the other is kind of the hot-tempered, the hot, aggressive, seemingly, usually they present as very tense, very anxious, kind of pressured, but both can have a very specific sort of manipulative energy about them. And the really main typical, I think, hallmark trait is to understand that in the neurophysiology of the psychopath, by virtue of their brain regions in the prefrontal lobe, the amygdala, as well as some of the other emotional control centers of the brain, they have a heightened sensitivity to a reward system of dopamine in their brain regions. So this makes them extremely reward-driven. Extremely pleasure-seeking. And the brain regions which are affected, which basically cause a lot of this illogical and emotional dysregulation, occurs in the prefrontal lobe. So what this really does is it impacts their very high energy, high pleasure-seeking, high reward-seeking. So with that can be really seeming, they almost have like a tunnel vision to them. Where they're extremely focused on extremely selfish, pathologically selfish needs. So it's almost as if they're just really, really hyper-focused. And yes, there's, again, I always use this disclaimer, there's people who are very productive who are, highly focused, but it doesn't mean that they have to hurt others to obtain their ends. So there's a pathological, meaning an abnormality, an emotional dysregulation in the neurophysiology of the female psychopath, where because of their heightened reward system for this dopamine, which is kind of like their pleasure-seeking neurotransmitter, they tend to then, by virtue of the dysfunction in the other brain centers of the brain, they tend to have a lack or complete zero empathy for others. So this results in what we call a lack of conscience. So even though this would be bad behavior, immoral behavior, not socially acceptable, they continue on that track because they are so extremely pleasure-seeking that they just don't have that as part of their character, part of their character. So it is a true, I guess, what we would call an antisocial personality disorder, oftentimes meaning that they're really all about them and without regards to the whole. So they'll go contrary to societal norms to accomplish and obtain what they want. So this emotional dysregulation can take the form of, it seems very illogical, and in the beginning that pleasure-seeking behavior can be part of the love bombing, the idealizing, where they're very very promiscuous, very sexual, very seductive, and there's an agenda to it. So they're going to use their body, the hypersexualization, to get whatever it is that they want, and that generally means a very dominating and controlling hyperfocus. So a lot of men, I think, take pleasure in this being dominated in the beginning because it feels like such a relief or a release that they don't have to, they can kind of sit back and like let the woman take charge a little bit. So I think in the beginning it's very welcome behavior, and it's kind of like, oh, this is a super strong woman and she's like very neat or very controlling, or she does everything for me. She, makes a lot of dinner. She cleans the house very well. She's so seductive. She's very high energy. And so this will attract, especially, I don't want to say a needy man, but like a lot of his needs will be satisfied by this. And if you've had a parental figure, this control and domination takes the form of just that, domination and control, where it can be very dehumanizing, where you're not allowed to basically move, flinch, speak without being a threat to this psychopath. Because part of their personality disorder, in terms of being without conscience and without empathy for others, they do not have that emotional connection with others. So even the hot-tempered psychopath, they do not really bond and connect with others. So you might have really kind of felt this, but oftentimes in their manipulative and controlling behavior, this tends to create kind of like a denial in those people who they are focusing on and targeting. So they might be extremely sexual. So because of all the quote unquote physical attention, then you might just enable their other, or permit, or just allow this maladaptive, this poor treatment of you. So you might suffer at certain ways that you're being taken advantage of financially, your time-wise, your exhaustion, the way that you've been hypersexualized. And even though kind of like that you've been mistreated, you're willing to accept this mistreatment for the quote-unquote payoff or the gift of their sexuality that you're receiving from this partner. So you might kind of explain it away, or disregard the emotional hurt, disregard the humiliation, disregard the devaluing, and then eventually the discarding, because they have so many other quote-unquote positive qualities, the sexualization, the being in control, the dominating. So in part of this, we see a lot of people kind of enduring this for a while, but they don't realize that you're getting taken advantage of, and oftentimes there's a lot of manipulation and other sort of cheating behaviors or very deceitful behaviors going on behind one's back, where you're maybe being insulted a little bit, being humiliated. There might be other partners who she's kind of juggling around. So these individuals tend to have this high sexuality, and it can express itself in very many manners. So in very different relationships. So it might be, she's a little bit too, even though she's married, a little bit too flirtatious with others, may dress extremely provocatively, or inappropriate sexualized behavior for people, for other family members, the way that they use their body, the way that they bend, the way that they dress. I don't want to say, wardrobe malfunctions, but just stuff like that, and oftentimes they're not very square and center with people. In other words, they're not very engaging. They're more sexualizing and dominating and controlling. And so this can really create a real imbalance in relationships. And whatever it is that they're giving, they might give people a lot of gifts as a way to control and manipulate. And this gift giving then will have you, take focus off of the maladaptive treatment, the way that they've treated you. And it's like, well, this person gives me this, or they give me that. And so you tend to accept what they're giving, and then still endure that emotional manipulation, which is not a good idea. You need to not see it for what it is, that it's a manipulation tactic, and don't accept their gifts, don't accept their hypersexualization, don't accept all their domination and control, because what it is, it's breaking you down. It's making you powerless in the long run. And even though that can be a tough pill to swallow or hard to accept, it's much, much better in the long run for you to face the trauma and face the reality that you need to kind of protect yourself, declare your boundaries, and take responsibility and accountability for yourself where you need to, and pick up the pieces and move on and move out and get away and just go no contact, because really this person becomes more severe, more controlling, more manipulative, more hot-tempered, more stressful with time. And it gets really ugly, and a lot of people shut down. But, it can become very dangerous because of this lack of control in their prefrontal cortex. They can just do some crazy things. If they are angry at you, or you're leaving them and they view you as now the enemy, and they can freak out for oftentimes their primary relationships. If those are disbanded, they can react very with extreme rage, or feeling like you're worthless for leaving me, and then they seek revenge, and then you've got the stalking, and you have the rage outbursts, and you have the property destruction, and the smear campaigns where they're trying to ruin your reputation, or spread pictures about you, or talk to your family members about you. A lot of this splitting and triangulation. So do not be intimidated by these individuals. Do not be threatened. Realize it's a game of manipulation that they're playing. And oftentimes it's just based in a lot of illogical, just emotional dysregulation that they have going on. And it's better to accept and just move on. Just disengage with these people. Disconnect, unplug. Do not become a victim anymore, because they are so controlling, so domineering, that it's just that way. And it's not a bond, it's not a relationship that they have with these people. It's strictly a manipulation, a control, and a power over others with an agenda to take something from you. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.